Okay, so when you're in Blender, uh, there's people coming from all different cultures and ways of doing things. Some of us are 2D artists, some of us are 3D artists, some of us are traditional, some of us are digital. Uh, so basically, we need to know how to create our most basic tools that we are going to be using. So the most simplest way is in the 3D viewport, if you go to the menu and you go A, you can see the Shift A shortcut is next to it, next to Add. This is basically your list of objects in Blender that you can manipulate. The add-on was originally designed for mesh and curves, but we have opened it up so it deals with surfaces, metaballs, text, volumes, grease pencils, armatures, lights, cameras, speakers. So all of that information can get switched out, okay, at a per frame basis, right? So yeah, so it's fun times. Okay, so how do we create, for all the 2D artists out there, how do we create a curve? Okay, something to draw with. Without using grease pencil, what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be creating a simple curve like this. And then all we want to do is we just want to extrude it and give it some thickness. Beyond that, we want to also give it a material. So giving it a standard, black material is going to look like this in our node tree. So basically here are our material, our shader editor. And then what we want to do is we want to say, okay, use nodes. So we can use something really extreme like this, like the BSDF principal node. Or what we can do, if we're like hardcore 2D, is we can hardcore. If we're hardcore 2D, we can just plug in the RGBA node and we can just draw straight up black and white. Okay, so, and then pretty much from here, it's just basically drawing. So how do we start drawing Addon? That's the biggest question we all want to know, right? It's like, we've created this object, but how do I draw with it? Okay, so we want to go into edit mode. And then in edit mode, we have, if I hit T on the, in the viewport, it's going to bring up my tool panel. I also, when we were going through preferences, I switched playback to be spacebar. So spacebar should bring up your tools. And basically, we have our draw tool right here. Now you can see my draw tool settings and what they've set to. Okay, at the moment, Blender has a problem with its curves, and it's not going to be fixed anytime soon at all. Not negotiable. Unless you have your own developer, the Blender Foundation isn't going to touch it with a 10-foot pole. Okay, so basically we have this drawing information, and so like here you'll notice I'll draw a stroke sometimes. We'll see if I can get it to do it. Sometimes you'll draw a stroke and the stroke won't draw at all, like nothing. It'll look like nothing appears, and just like that one there, right? So if we rotate, we can see what happens is Blender rotates it on its tilt. So it does this really random thing. It just does this at any point in time. It changes the tilt up, right? There's nothing you can do about it. We're thinking about writing some code for it, so then after every stroke, Python recalculates the stroke so that the tilt is always correct. There are some options to get around this, so we can do Z up, and this kind of does work, but I just want to point out, look at what it does to your strokes. It chops them all up, right? Chops them all up into these parts. So the reality is like Z up doesn't work. And then if you smooth it out, right, as much as you want, basically it's just turning it into a calligraphic stroke. And what it's really doing is it's just twisting the hell out of your stroke in 3D space. So for some people, they're going to be like, awesome, that's sweet, that's exactly what I want. For other people, they're going to be like, no, I want this to be handled correctly. So at the moment, it's a bug, and that's all there is to say to it. I filed a bunch of reports, I've tried negotiating, I've tried talking. They don't care. 상관없어, right? So that's it. That's all there is to it. They're not going to fix it. Yeah. So apart from drawing, basically that is how you can start drawing. The next thing is like, how do you erase? Well, basically there is no eraser, because what we're doing is we're tricking out Blender. We're saying to Blender, we want you to behave like a drawing tool, which is what it is, right? Because these are like OpenToon's curves that it's using in here. It's OpenToon's technology, and so they're drawing away. We get all this beautiful thickness, thinness, and everything like that. I'm just going to turn this from Z up to minimum. And so we can see all of this information getting put into our viewport. The way that we handle it is that we can basically, you're drawing with vector data. So what we're doing is we're just selecting stuff and we're saying, hey, you know what? I want you to delete these segments. And then you might hover your mouse over it, you might select something and then hit delete. Okay, so it is a vector drawing tool set, and it's not, Blender hasn't really been designed to do this in a way, kind of. Not, it hasn't been designed fully to do this. And so because of that, it is kind of limited, but at the same time, when it comes to animation, it's like way more flexible than pretty much any other vector animation system that I've ever used. So you've got to kind of take good with the bad. And I just want to remind everybody, this is the first iteration of the stop motion add-on that we've been working on. So hopefully these issues will get addressed as more and more people pick it up. Okay, so basically drawing is really simple. If you don't want to draw with any of this, like seeing the vertex data or anything like that, I think you can actually, you can just turn it off here, yeah. And you're basically just going to be able to draw away. Okay, so this is giving you a basic black line, and you can see the line looks, it's pretty dodgy. Okay, there is another option. The other option is Bezier. And the Bezier is going to give you a lot less points, but it is going to increase that ability of drawing. It's going to make drawing in Blender more prone to that twist, right? But it's going to give you a lot fewer points. So when it works great. When it doesn't, it's just a matter of hitting the undo button. And then that's kind of it. That's basically drawing inside of Blender. So I urge you just please take a good look at these settings, you know, and have a play with them. Basically, Poly and Bezier are both pretty good. They both suffer from the same issues. Blender, when using Bezier, has a really twisted, it has a huge twist problem, and it even has a problem where it'll take some of your curve and it will literally make it end up looking like that. You'll be drawing away, and then every curve you draw will just look like scribble. It's just because of the way that it's been implemented. It's just shoddy. That's it. There's nothing else to say. It was implemented and it just hasn't been tested thoroughly enough. That's all it is. Can they fix it? Yes, they can. They're they're more than smart enough to do it. So I'm not worried about that. It's just, we just need more users to be using it. That's it. And more users speaking up. So hopefully that will happen, and hopefully they'll fix it soon. Okay, so that said, in the Discord, I am going to be putting up this curve here. And this curve basically has this material, okay, and it just gives you something with a little bit of tooth and a little more texture to it, so that way when you are drawing in edit mode, there you go, there's the scribble I was talking about, right? So when you are drawing in edit mode, it's going to be you know, more organic looking. Okay, so control space jumps you out. We can turn our T panel off, we can turn our N panel off, and we can basically just draw away. Okay. The other option is there's no reason why you have to draw in curves. So at the moment, I would say if you are going to be a traditional animator inside of Blender, I would say do it with grease pencil. Okay, get all your rough timing out and do it with grease pencil, and then use curves to clean up your animation. And so you block everything out, you do all your rough paths in grease pencil, and then do your cleanup and everything using curves, because you're going to have way more control and way more flexibility, way more consistency, and there's just more animation features like using the All add-on and the stop motion add-on. And that is drawing with curves in Blender. So I hope that helps. Okay guys, the next one I'll talk about the sculpt tools.